movements over the next few days, and what investigators found was chilling. Every day, Bergman left the hotel carrying a plastic bag filled with unknown items. He was observed discarding the contents in various locations, ensuring that none of them were retrievable. Whatever he was getting rid of, he made sure that no one could find any trace of it. The mystery deepened when it was discovered that all the labels had been removed from his clothing, making it impossible to determine their origin. His interactions with others were minimal. When checking into the hotel, he paid in cash, providing no credit card details or traceable information. His demeanor was polite but distant, and he never engaged in conversations beyond the necessary exchanges. He had no phone, no luggage tags, and no identification. His efforts to obscure his identity were methodical and well planned. On the morning of June 16th, a local man out for a morning swim discovered Bergman's body on Ross's Point Beach. He was lying on his back, dressed only in a purple striped shirt, navy underwear, and black socks. His personal belongings, including his wallet, money, and any form of identification, were missing. His clothes, which were found neatly folded nearby, added to the strangeness of the scene. Medical examiner Clive Kilgallen conducted an autopsy, but the results only deepened the mystery. There were no signs of classical saltwater drowning, yet no indication of foul play either. The medical report revealed that Bergman was in extremely poor health. He had advanced prostate cancer, bone tumors, and heart disease. Given his condition, he should have been on medication, yet toxicology tests showed no trace of any drugs in his system. This raised the question, why was a man in such poor health not seeking medical treatment? Instead, he had chosen to travel to a remote town in Ireland, leaving behind no clues as to who he was or where he came from. One of the most puzzling aspects of the case was his dental records. His teeth showed signs of extensive and expensive dental work, including bridges, root canals, crowns, and a gold tooth. This suggested he had access to high-quality dental care, potentially indicating a background of wealth, or at least a comfortable standard of living. Despite this, his identity remains unknown. His DNA and dental records were checked against databases in several countries, including Austria and Germany, but no matches were found. The case has drawn comparisons to the Tamam Shud mystery, an infamous unsolved case in Australia in which an unidentified man was found dead on a beach under equally perplexing circumstances. Both men had erased their identities before death, and both cases had left investigators with more questions than answers. However, unlike the Tamam Shud case, which has drawn international intrigue for decades, the Peter Bergman case remains relatively obscure outside of Ireland. Over the years, appeals for information have been made in various newspapers, but no friends, family members, or acquaintances have come forward to claim Bergman. His remains were eventually buried in an unmarked grave in Sligo, leaving behind only his haunting story. What makes the case of Peter Bergman so unsettling is the deliberate way in which he erased himself. He planned his disappearance meticulously, ensuring that nothing about his past could be traced. His declining health suggests that he may have travelled to Sligo to live out his final days alone, far from anyone who might recognise him. To this day, the mystery of Peter Bergman remains unsolved. Who he was, where he came from, and why he chose to vanish in Ireland are questions that may never be answered. Despite modern forensic advancements and digital databases, some people still manage to slip through the cracks, leaving behind only shadows of their existence. The strange case of Laura Huebner. The disappearance of Laura Huebner remains one of the most puzzling missing person cases in recent Canadian history. At the time of her vanishing, Laura was 45 years old and living in Nanaimo, British Columbia. Originally from Calgary, Alberta, she had recently been dealing with significant life stressors, including the loss of her mother just a few months prior. Working 3 different jobs, Laura was exhausted and decided to take a break by travelling to Victoria. Laura's passion for her work in costume design was well known among her friends and colleagues. One of her closest friends, Danica Wright, who had known her for over 20 years, stated that Laura had been excited to return to work on a movie project in the summer. To Danica, this suggested that Laura had no intention of disappearing or abandoning her life. Instead, she had concrete plans for the future, making her sudden vanishing all the more perplexing. Laura was last seen April 24th, 2023, when she arrived at Victoria International Airport from Regina, Saskatchewan. Initially, reports indicated that she was heading to Nanaimo to visit friends, but it was later revealed that she had planned to meet a man she had connected with online. Her father, Harry Hubner, disclosed that she had booked a return flight home for April 28th, but she never boarded the plane. During her stay, Laura sent her father a photograph on April 25th.
1 second, you're worrying about your home. And then, thanks to ADT, there's a lot less to worry about. Feel secure enough to let others in with Trusted Neighbor from ADT.
Showing her aboard a sailboat. According to her friends, the man she had gone to meet had invited her on a date on his boat. After Laura was reported missing, her father shared the photo online in hopes of identifying the vessel and gathering information about the person she had met. On May 2nd, a boat matching the one in the photo was spotted in Nanaimo, docked near a Royal Canadian Mounted Police vessel after being towed away. Despite this significant lead, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police declined to comment on whether the towed sailboat was connected to Laura's disappearance. They simply confirmed that they believed she had been in the Nanaimo area as of April 24th, but provided no further information. This lack of transparency frustrated Laura's family and friends, who were desperate for answers. What made Laura's disappearance especially concerning was that it was entirely out of character for her to remain out of contact for so long. Her family maintained that she would never voluntarily sever ties with them, particularly given the recent loss of her mother. The fact that she had concrete plans to return home and resume work further diminished the likelihood that she had intentionally disappeared. As the investigation continued, speculation grew that the man Laura had met online might have played a role in her disappearance. Given the timing and circumstances, authorities have suggested that he may have been involved, though no official suspects have been named. Without further evidence, the case remains unsolved, leaving Laura's loved ones with more questions than answers. The disappearance of Laura Hubner serves as a chilling reminder of the risks associated with meeting strangers online. It also highlights the challenges faced by law enforcement in missing person cases, particularly when critical evidence, such as surveillance footage or eyewitness accounts, is scarce. To this day, no trace of Laura has been found. Her family and friends continue to hold out hope that new information will emerge, shedding light on what happened to her. Until then, her case remains an open and painful mystery. The strange case of the Witch of Monterey. The mysterious video of the so-called Witch of Monterey remains one of the most intriguing, unexplained phenomena in Mexico's history. The incident, which took place in 2006 over the city of Monterrey, Nuevo León, captivated both the media and the public, as multiple witnesses reported seeing a humanoid figure floating above the mountains. What began as a local curiosity quickly escalated into a widely discussed case, with numerous theories emerging to explain the bizarre sighting. The case gained further notoriety when video footage of the floating entity surfaced, intensifying speculation and drawing international attention. The sighting occurred during the early hours of a clear summer morning, when multiple individuals observed an unusual figure hovering above the mountains surrounding Monterey. The object, which had a distinct humanoid shape, appeared to move effortlessly through the air, defying conventional explanations. Unlike typical UFO sightings, which often involve metallic crafts or bright lights, this entity resembled a floating person draped in dark, flowing robes. Witnesses described it as eerily silent, lacking any visible means of propulsion, and moving in a deliberate manner, rather than simply being carried by the wind. One of the first and most notable recordings of the Witch of Monterey was captured by the UFO Mexican Club, a group dedicated to investigating unexplained aerial phenomena. The footage showed a dark figure gliding over the peaks of the Nuevo León Highlands. Unlike common drone footage or optical illusions, this entity seemed to maintain a steady path parallel to the mountains. Mexican news outlets quickly picked up the story, sensationalizing the incident and dubbing the figure the Witch of Monterey. The story gained further traction when reports of close encounters with these mysterious beings began surfacing. Two police officers in separate incidents claimed to have had frightening interactions with what they believed to be supernatural entities. The first officer, Gerardo Garza of Santa Catarina, reported seeing two figures resembling traditional depictions of witches, wearing dark cloaks and pointed hoods, with long fingernails, floating above an abandoned cemetery. Garza, who was conducting a routine patrol, initially thought they were birds, but soon realized they were humanoid in appearance. He described the figures as having an almost ethereal quality, as if they were covered in feathers or a thick mist. A far more terrifying encounter was reported by Officer Leonardo Samaniego of Guadalupe. According to his statement, he was on patrol when a dark figure suddenly dropped from a tree and landed directly onto the hood of his vehicle. The entity had large, penetrating eyes and what appeared to be a cape or cloak draped around its body. Before Samaniego could react, the figure pressed its hand against the windshield, at which point he lost consciousness. When he awoke moments later, he found himself still in his vehicle, his uniform disheveled. Shaken and disoriented, he immediately called for backup. Camera crews later recorded his distressed state, providing compelling evidence that something extraordinary had occurred. The consistency of the witness reports added credibility to the case. People from different parts of Monterrey described seeing the same humanoid figure hovering in the sky. Many reported feeling an overwhelming sense of unease as they observed the entity, which moved fluidly through the air without any visible wings, wires, or mechanical support. Given the number of accounts and the available video footage, the case was difficult to dismiss as a mere hoax. Despite the widespread attention, skeptics attempted to offer rational explanations for the sighting. Some suggested that the floating figure could have been a misidentified balloon or a paraglider seen from an unusual angle. Others theorized that it was a drone or a kite with an attached figure designed to create an illusion of levitation. However, none of these explanations fully accounted for the eeriness of the footage or the first-hand testimonies of those who had direct encounters with the entity. In the years following the Monterrey sightings, similar reports of flying humanoids surfaced in other parts of Mexico and even in other countries. This led some researchers to propose that these entities were not witches in the traditional sense, but rather a form of unidentified aerial phenomenon related to UFO activity. Others speculated that the encounters were linked to Mexican folklore, where tales of supernatural beings such as nahuales, humans who can transform into animals or spirits, are deeply ingrained in cultural narratives. Local authorities, overwhelmed by the media frenzy, conducted their own investigations, but were unable to provide any conclusive answers. Although they initially dismissed the reports as mass hysteria or misidentifications, they did not officially debunk the claims. The incident remains an open mystery, with believers and skeptics continuing to debate the true nature of the entity. The Witch of Monterrey phenomenon stands as a compelling example of how modern sightings can blend with folklore and urban legend. Whether it was a true supernatural occurrence, an elaborate hoax, or an optical illusion, the event remains a fascinating case in the annals of unidentified aerial phenomena. To this day, no definitive explanation has been found, leaving the mystery of the Witch of Monterrey to linger in the imaginations of those who dare to wonder what truly happened in the skies of Nuevo Leon. The mysterious disappearance of Brianna Maitland. The disappearance of Brianna Maitland remains one of the most baffling missing person cases in the United States. Maitland was 17 years old when she vanished on March 19, 2004, after leaving her job at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, Vermont. The following day, her car was discovered backed into an abandoned house roughly a mile away from her workplace. Despite numerous theories, reported sightings and she seemed visibly shaken and agitated. Maitland did not disclose what had upset her, and her mother.
When we started making furniture, we wanted to create pieces that would stand the test of time, and a business that would too. But starting a business felt...
Mother chose not to pry. Maitland insisted she needed to get home to prepare for work, so Kelly dropped her off at her friend's house between 3:30 and 4 in the afternoon. This would be the last time she saw her daughter. Later that evening, Maitland left a note for her friend, stating that she would return after work. She then drove to the Black Lantern Inn in a 1985 Oldsmobile sedan registered to her mother. She completed her shift and clocked out at approximately 11:20 in the evening. telling her co-workers that she needed to rest before working her second job the next day. By all accounts, she was alone in her car when she left the restaurant. The following afternoon, a Vermont State Police trooper was dispatched to an abandoned house in Richford, Vermont. There, he discovered Maitland's Oldsmobile backed into the side of the house, which was known locally as the Old Dutchburn House. The vehicle had been positioned in such a way that the rear end had breached the siding, and a piece of plywood from a broken window lay across the trunk. Inside the car, officers found 2 of Maitland's paychecks on the front seat, along with a water bottle, loose change, and an unsmoked cigarette outside the vehicle. The trooper assumed the car had been abandoned by a drunk driver, and the vehicle was towed to a local garage. For several days, no one realized Maitland was missing. Her friend, assuming she was staying elsewhere, did not become concerned when she saw that Maitland's note remained undisturbed after the weekend. When her mother finally learned that Maitland had not been seen or heard from, she began making calls to her daughter's friends and employers. By March 23rd, with no sign of Maitland, her mother officially reported her missing. 2 days later, her parents provided photos of her to Vermont State Police. When an officer showed them a picture of the abandoned Oldsmobile, they immediately recognized it as Maitland's car. Her mother later stated that she felt instinctively disturbed by the image and believed someone else, not her daughter, had left the vehicle in such an eerie manner. The case quickly gained media attention, and various theories emerged regarding Maitland's disappearance. Some speculated that she may have been taken or had left voluntarily due to personal reasons. Others pointed to potential involvement with individuals linked to criminal activities. A particular lead suggested that Maitland had been held captive in a house occupied by local drug dealers, some of whom she knew. However, no concrete evidence ever emerged to confirm this claim. In 2006, a reported sighting of Maitland at a casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey, briefly reignited interest in the case. Authorities investigated the tip, but the woman in question was never identified, leaving the sighting unverified. Despite the lack of significant breakthroughs, investigators continued their search for answers. In March 2022, Vermont State Police made a significant revelation regarding the case. They announced that a DNA sample found in Maitland's car had been matched to an individual among a group of 11 people previously tested in connection to her disappearance. While they did not disclose the identity of this person, they confirmed that the individual had been cooperative. This new development provided a glimmer of hope that the case might eventually be solved. Despite the efforts of law enforcement, Maitland's disappearance remains a haunting mystery. Over the years, her case has drawn attention from true crime enthusiasts and online sleuths who continue to analyze the available evidence. Her family has never stopped seeking answers, holding on to the hope that one day they will learn what happened to their daughter. The disappearance of Brianna Maitland is a chilling reminder of how quickly someone can vanish without a trace. Although the investigation remains open, the lack of definitive answers has left her loved ones and the public grasping for closure. Whether new evidence will eventually emerge remains uncertain, but the search for the truth continues. Henry McCabe vanished without a trace. Henry McCabe, a Liberian-American resident of Mounds View, Minnesota, vanished under highly suspicious circumstances in the early morning hours of September 7, 2015. A well-respected auditor for the Minnesota Department of Revenue, McCabe was known for his responsible nature and commitment to his job. However, the events leading up to his disappearance and the eerie voicemail he left behind have fueled endless speculation and unanswered questions. On the evening of September 6, 2015, McCabe went out for a night of socializing with a group of acquaintances. He spent the day with William Papos Kennedy, a man he considered a friend, and the two later went to the nightclub Pavlitsky's. As the night wound down, Kennedy claimed he gave McCabe a ride and dropped him off at a Super America gas station on 73rd Avenue in Fridley. However, this account would later be contradicted by electronic evidence showing that McCabe's last known location was actually a Holiday gas station, not the Super America station Kennedy mentioned. At approximately 2:23 in the morning on September 7th, McCabe's wife, Corinne McCabe, who was in California at the time, received a disturbing phone call from her husband's number. What she heard on the other end was horrifying. McCabe appeared to be in distress, letting out agonizing screams before stating that someone had shot him. Then, the line went dead. Panicked, Corinne immediately reached out to McCabe's biological brother, Tim Borber. At the time, Borber did not answer, and the call went to voicemail. The last 2 minutes of the eerie phone call were recorded on Borber's voicemail, providing crucial evidence that something had gone terribly wrong. It was not until the following day that Borber checked his voicemail and listened to the terrifying message. What he heard was his brother screaming in pain, making distressing sounds that have been described as animalistic. The recording raised many questions, as it did not contain any audible gunshots, despite McCabe allegedly saying he had been shot. Alarmed, Borber filed a missing persons report with the Mounds View Police Department, kicking off what would become a lengthy and complex search effort. When McCabe failed to show up for work at the Minnesota Department of Revenue, concern deepened. He had always been a reliable employee, and his unexplained absence raised red flags. As investigators delved into his disappearance, they discovered additional troubling details. McCabe's wallet was found in the possession of one of the friends he had been with that night, and Kennedy was holding onto his keys. This meant that when McCabe was possible burial sites for her remains, including land once owned by Cannon's mother. Despite multiple searches, no evidence was ever recovered. The Lamplugh family channeled their grief into action. In 1986, just months after Susie's disappearance, Diana and Paul Lamplugh established the Susie Lamplugh Trust, a charity focused on personal safety for women. The organization has been instrumental in raising awareness about